Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Facts and Fatherhood podcast. I am so happy to be able to come back and join you again for another episode to share some really great things with you. I have a phenomenal guest that is going to be on with me today, and I am so excited for you to be able to join us during this conversation. We can really talk. We love to just really have really positive conversations concerning fatherhood. And so I'm so glad that you are joining us again today for another conversation. This is going to be very interesting. We're going to be talking a little bit about single fatherhood today. Normally, when the conversation is about single parenthood, it's usually about single moms. But today, our conversation is going to be about single fatherhood. You do not want to miss it, okay? But first, you already know, y'all, I'm telling you, I'm excited about this. That's coming forth really soon. You guys are going to have an opportunity to get your hands on something so great. This little tool right here that is called Like Arrows in My Hand. This little book that I have been working on for some time is soon going to have its release date. And I am so excited for you to be able to get this in your hands. This is all about some real world, really lived experience, which is a lot of what our podcast is all about. A real lived experience of the time that I was blessed to have the opportunity to be able to raise what I always say are three of the most wonderful people, three of the greatest people on the face of the planet. They're my favorite people. And I'm not ashamed to say that, but I want you to be able to get your hands on that particular resource. Want to make sure that you take a moment and join us on our website. Go right there to the website, www.factsandfathers.com. There's some great things over there for you to be able to find. There's some merchandise for you to be able to find over there, caps and tees and hoodies and all those kind of different things like that. Some of my favorites that are over there is something that I made in honor of my dear old dad, that it is a statement, a phrase that he used to say all of the time. And it was, boy, don't let the devil fool you. So we've got that in hoodies, we've got that in tees, we've got that in caps, coffee mugs, all the things where you can be reminded, or you actually can help remind others not to let the devil fool you. All right. So we did that in honor of my dad. And just in his memory, he's been gone now for about 7 years. It's just something that I want to do on our podcast about fatherhood to, in particular, honor and remember my father. So if you will indulge me for just a moment, just in memory of him, there's just a little something I'd like to present to you for just a moment, and just indulge me while we take a moment to remember and appreciate my dear
Would you know my name if I saw you in heaven? Would it be the same if I saw you in heaven? I must be strong and carry on, 'cause I know I don't belong here in
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for indulging me in just that moment of remembering my dad. He was a great guy. He was very much a man of principle. And there's so many great things that he taught me that has made me the man that I am today, that has made me the father that I am today. And I just wanted to take a moment to remember him, miss him so very, very much, but really, really glad that I was given the opportunity and the privilege to be his son. All right. And so, again, just want to encourage you guys, go over to that website. Make sure you grab some of the merch. Make sure you take advantage of some of the other resources that are over there that are available. It's a really, really cool place for you to go visit and get some positive support as a father. All right. Also, I want you to get your hands on this journal. You can actually order it from the website. This particular journal here, it's called the Target Practice Journal. Like arrows in my hand, the Target Practice Journal, an opportunity for you to just kind of record your journey, some things you may want to look back on as you kind of grow through your journey, through your process as a father. So we invite you to please, 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 please take the time, go visit the website, grab you some merch, get you some positive encouragement and all of the things. Well, guys, thank you again so much for joining me. I want you to take the time right now to welcome our guest to the platform here, to the podcast. This is Mr. Tyler McAdams. He is the founder of Inspiring Father, and he's going to share with us a little bit about his journey, about his moment, about how we got here to this spot and to this place. So everybody, do me a favor, welcome Mr. Tyler McAdams. How you doing today, my friend?
Man, I'm good. You got me emotional starting with the podcast today, brother. That's amazing. Memoir of your dad, man. That's amazing. So, no, I'm grateful to be here, bro.
Yeah.
I'm grateful to be here. I'm grateful to have a conversation with you to discuss fatherhood, man, and the challenges of single fatherhood too.
Yeah. As I said earlier, a lot of times when we enter into the conversation or whenever the conversation comes up, and we're talking about single parenthood, most of the time, the conversation is centered around single mothers. And by the way, let's just shout out, all the single mothers, that are out there, doing their job, doing a really, really phenomenal job, without, sometimes without the support and all the things. So definitely don't take anything away from the single moms, but our podcast is about fatherhood. And as we believe that dads matter. And so what I found out through some research is that, man, there are way more single fathers out there than maybe people realize. I think one of the last reporting said that just in the United States alone, that there were at least 2 million, a little 2.2 million single fathers that are out there raising their children. I think on an average of about a little more than 3 million children. So we're talking about, single dads who are not single dads of a single child, but single dads of multiples. And I understand that comes with a lot of trial, that comes with a lot of triumph. And I know that you have developed some things. And so I'm looking forward for the audience to hear about the things that you have developed that will help support a dad who is in this journey. Because as I always tell y'all, my goal for this podcast is to inspire and to motivate fathers all over to love being fathers the way that I love being a father. Now, I wish I could tell you how much I love being a father. I really can't, but I really want to try to spread that love to make you love being a father the way that I do, because I really, really, really do appreciate the privilege that I have been given to raise these children. So, Tyler, tell us a little bit more about you, about your journey, and all the things. We're ready to hear it.
Yeah, man, and I definitely am on the same path as you. That's why my brand is called Inspiring Father, because I want to inspire fathers to love their kids to the fullest, no matter what, and show up for them, even through chaos. Even through that's kind of been my journey through this whole community that I've built in this brand and this business. And I think that my journey it's not an overnight success story. I basically I was married for 10 years. Had 3 beautiful children with her. So you said the full thing. I'm one of those men that has multiple children as a single father. So, but married for 10 years, 3 kids, 14, 11, and 7, basically as the ages right now. And grateful for every moment that I get with them. I have them half the time, but it's been one of those journeys where, going through it, you didn't expect that to happen. When you get married to somebody, you expect it to be a full on, lifelong thing. And, things just happen, and I take accountability for my part of it. I've done that and made amends with it. And it's been a transition. The hardest part has been it's been on the kids, right? That's really been my biggest, that's why I focus so much more on them. And I was present even before, even through the marriage too, with them, very present. But the biggest thing is life pulls you in many different directions as a single father, right? You get pulled in and then you start drifting and you get lost. And after divorce, I got lost. I was definitely, I felt lonely. I didn't think, I lost my confidence. I lost myself a little bit there for a while. And, I ended up thinking chasing another relationship was going to fix it. Right. I ended up chasing another relationship and not long after I got divorced or split, or it wasn't even divorced, wasn't even finalized. I split. I found another relationship. I hopped right and felt, that was going to cure my pain. Right. But at the end of the day, it was actually probably my worst decision because I wasn't healed internally from that previous relationship. I wasn't healed as a man. I wasn't healed as a father. I was hoping somebody else would carry my grief and carry my baggage with me, and instead of me taking ownership of it and doing the work. And so, I jumped into that, and 6 months later, we ended up finding out that she was pregnant, and I had my fourth child coming on board with that. And that was even hard. I was hard because then I wasn't ready. I was basically went from 3 kids to now 1 on the way, but my ex also had 3 kids. So it was basically, I had 3 kids, 7 kids in a matter of 6, 7 month, 8 month span. So I'm like, it's one of those things where I take accountability for it. I own it. But at the same time, it was one of those situations where it wasn't easy. It was not easy. It was not what I expected, not what I wanted to be involved in right away. I thought it was the right move at the time, of course, with moving in together and all this other stuff. But it was just, the relationship wasn't built on healthy habits, healthy routine. And so on top of that, my youngest daughter, Luna, she was born with a condition called gastroschisis. So she was in the hospital. She had her bowels were outside of her stomach. So she was in the hospital for 3 months after she was born. Still an ongoing medical issue today. So dealing with that as a single father of 4 and having a medical child, that's one of those things where it's even more challenging, because you having to get to the doctor appointments regularly, all these other things. So it's like you have to show up for everybody, right? And that has been a challenge within itself. And so I lost myself again after that relationship, right? I ended up going back, and then that's when I took ownership of it and I started building this brand. I started building this platform because I wanted to inspire. I wanted to journal my story first of all, but I also wanted to inspire fathers. Hey, you can go through a bunch of stuff in your life, but you don't quit on your kids. You don't quit on your kids. You keep showing up for them no matter what. My father, my biological father, I haven't spoken to him since I was 8 years old. I have not seen him since I was 8 years old. And so he basically left for a new family and, lives in the same state as me. And I don't even have a conversation with, I don't even know who he is. So I made a vow when I was young, I'm never going to do that to my own children if I was blessed to have that. And that's something that I feel like presented, and I broke that cycle to not just leave my kids behind. I had that opportunity to do so, and I was never going to let that happen. So that's kind of been my journey, man. And the reason why I've started this whole community and this journey of trying to get fathers to understand that there's other people, they're not alone. We have, there's plenty of people out there that are going through the same stuff. I've talked to so many men, worked with so many different men that are going through so many tough journeys. And, we all need to support one another as fathers, as men, for sure.
Wow. Yeah. That is interesting because I know a lot of single dads, and even the single dads that I know, I've watched seen some of the things, and some of the things that I've observed were things that I would have found, unbelievable. Like I said, regardless of whether it's the mother or the father, it's a challenging situation to be in, and a lot of
Yeah.
times, it's the decisions and choices that we made, that brought us to the point, to the place where we are. However, it's one thing to allow those choices and decisions to define you in a negative sense, versus taking those choices and decisions that you made, taking ownership and saying, hey, I get it. This is what happened. And, this is where it was, this is how it is. And really taking the step to say, I'm still going to rise to the challenge, and I'm still going to do, what's necessary, and essential in the situation to make the best of it. And to keep the people, which everybody matters, but really the people who matter the most, it's that young life that didn't ask to be a part of any of those things that allowed to come here. So I understand that you, as you went through that time of divorce, and you went through that time where you really had to face that challenge. And of course, I know you talked about how you kind of got into like a lot of different things, or into another relationship and all the things. But can you talk to us about that period of point in time of what that, or give us a window into more of what that struggle looked like after the divorce? How that
I mean,
those emotional roller coasters and all of that.
You feel like a failure. You feel like you failed your family. You feel like, even though it wasn't necessarily everything, it wasn't all on me, of course. I mean, it was just not a healthy relationship in the marriage. It was just a lot of back and forth, a lot of conversations about divorce, even before the divorce actually happened. Try to make it work. And so you just kind of feel like you failed in a way, but you also feel just discouraged. You feel, you go into deep, you have a lot of emotions. And one thing I wanted to share is that a lot of fathers isolate themselves. A lot of fathers go into just thinking that they aren't allowed to show their emotions. And I find that as a bunch of crap. I think it's important that we show our emotions. I find that those emotions need to come out of you, because if they don't come out of you, what's going to happen is you're going to end up doing some dangerous stuff to yourself. And I just want that's a message that I've been pushing out there heavily is you can't just isolate. You can't just think that your world is over, because it's not over, man. Your kids deserve to see you growing and rebuilding yourself, right? That your kids deserve to see you get back up off the ground and take ownership of what it is and move forward. Right. So, but that time, man, I was definitely just drifting. I was going through the motions. You know what I mean? I was going through the motions. I wasn't feeling like, I was showing up for my kids when they were there with me, when I had them, but I wasn't, definitely wasn't fully present in that moment. I was just kind of like there, but I wasn't there. You know what I mean? So, and a lot of emotions ran through me, because your house just burned down. Your house just burned down completely. Your internal house just burnt. Your vision, everything just crumbled, and you just don't know where to start. You don't know how to get there. And it took me a long time, and it's still a work in progress. It takes you a long time to kind of find that path. That's part of why I've rebuilt or made the method I have, because this is the journey I've ridden. This is the journey I've I mean, this is the path I've taken, and this is how I've gotten to where I am today, where I'm stabilized in my own self and understand what I need, understand the journey, right? Understand the journey. And it's a lonely road. Don't get me wrong. It's a lonely road, but the one thing is, a lot of fathers, a lot of men, they reach out or they start grabbing vices to numb the pain, right? And they start numbing the things with drugs, alcohol, porn addiction, things like that, where
Yeah.
they're just
Mhm.
they're trying to get rid of the pain, and it really just it keeps all that happens is just you're just delaying the inevitable. You're just delaying the
Mhm.
inevitable, and that's more chaos. Really, it's really more chaos for yourself down the line, and that's something that you have to own. You have to own that journey of just doing it yourself, but with somebody by your side.
Yeah.
If you can surround
Yeah.
yourself with the right people, that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with the right people.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think you raised a couple important points there about the reality of when it comes to emotions. A lot of times, when we talk about the expression of emotions, a lot of
Mhm.
time you're right that it seems like on the side, and we're almost taught that from little boys. Hey,
Sure.
toughen up, suck it up, big boys don't cry. All the things. So you're really kind of trained in a way to really be, emotionally absent. But the interesting thing is, you're not excluded from being human because
Yeah.
you're a man, right? That's just not a part of the equation. And what I've learned about emotions is that this is the one when I talk about emotions, even when like I teach like Bible studies and stuff like that. When I talk about emotions, I tell people that our emotions are really a gift from God to us. And I said I like to look at our emotions as the lights that come on the dashboard in your car. You know, it's important that I have all of those sensors and all those different things that are up under the hood, so that those hood that those sensors that are and everything that's up under the hood and all those systems, that keep things regulated, are up under the hood. It's important that those things trigger those lights on the dashboard.
Yeah.
So what I like to say is that emotions are indicators for us. They shouldn't be navigators, but they really should be indicators for us. So if I'm experiencing something particular in that emotion, it's important that emotion is expressed, because emotions were not made to be suppressed. Emotions were made, designed to be expressed. And so when I begin to express my emotions, it's the same thing I do whenever that light comes on the dashboard. I see that light on the dashboard and I'm reminded I need to respond to whatever that light is. I mean, you can only go so long once that indicator comes on that your fuel is low. You can only go so far, at some
True.
point, that you need that indicator. We're not checking the gas tank continuously. So we need that sensor in that gas tank to flag us, to say, hey, you've been driving around a little too long and you're about to be on empty. All right. So it's good to have that indicator. It's a good thing to have that indicator. So our emotions are like that. They're indicators that really help us to do what's necessary to regulate, right? Because
Correct.
regulation is uber important. And one of the things you
It's
talk
also
about
tough.
is you talk
It's
about
tough.
how, yeah, and you talk about the fact of how, men will necessarily fall apart, all at once. The word you've been utilizing is the word drift. Like it's just kind of over time, right? And because we're taught to be so emotionally disconnected, we're a lot of times even disengaged from our own emotions. Like we don't have that awareness, like of where we are, emotionally. And of course, we are wired, in a way where we're a little bit different. I was part of this study one time, and they were talking about how different, men and women are, and how we are kind of made in a way where we are logic first and then emotion. And
Yeah.
then on the other side of the women is just the opposite. It's emotion first and then logic. And sometimes you gotta, know how to be able to bridge that gap. Where if my wife is in an emotional state, I've got to learn how to kind of meet her in that emotional, place, or just, kind of, bring comfort there, so that we can kind of get to the space where we can actually have, some form of conversation. But if I don't really understand how that dynamic works, then I can be complicating things for myself. But
True.
the problem is a lot of times we don't realize that connection between the logical and the emotional. And sometimes we're in that hardwired state, and we're, like I said, almost kind of trained to stay in that state of just straight logic and not never really deal with those emotions. So a lot of times we suppress them. And what ends up happening is we end up expressing the one emotion that, we're really good at, and that's anger, you know.
Yep.
But I've learned that anger really is a manifestation of fear. So,
Yep.
all the things. But so again, you talk about that drift. You talk about how, it's a slow process of drifting. So whenever we're dealing with that drift, there's something that we need to do to address that. And so talk to us a little bit about that, like how we address that drifting pattern that we can sometimes get into.
Yeah, man, it's just structure. You really need structure. It comes down to the habits, routines, and things that you can do, to tools that you can use to get yourself out of that drifting phase. I mean, it doesn't really ever stop per se, but you gotta know and understand the tools that you can utilize to get yourself out of that drifting mode. Because listen, motivation it's a dopamine hit. Motivation and inspiration is just a dopamine hit. It's all it is. It comes and goes in a matter of an hour, maybe even a few minutes. You know what I mean? So it gets you going, it gets a spark starter, sure, but what's going to last is your structure, and that's what I teach. That's what I work with fathers on is developing that structure, that roadmap, that plan of action to kind of get them clarity, get them. You have to get clear in a vision. It's like going on, you're just going on a road trip. Well, you're not going to just drive aimlessly. You gotta follow a map. You got to follow the signs, right? And it's no different than this state of mind where after divorce or after a relationship ends or something, you gotta sit down and get yourself some clarity. Ask yourself the right questions. Understand that you're not alone in this. There's other people that have gone through this journey, and you just got to follow the signs and listen to. Take action and listen to people that have been through this journey before, right? And that's the biggest thing that I've learned through this process is if you're going to drift, and it happens, even I'm sure it happens to you, man, you drift too. It's a very common thing. We all drift. It's just one of those things. We all have those moments of feeling lost in certain ways. And it doesn't matter if you're single or married or anything, it's just you're human. But at the end of the day, it's a matter of setting up that structure to re-engage yourself into what your goals are, what your vision is as the father you want to be, the man you want to become, the husband, whatever it is, the relationship that you want to attract, the energy that you want to be. That is the number one thing that you have to set your sights on, but you have to have that clear vision first, and you have to have that roadmap to get there.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's because what you end up doing, if you don't structure yourself and you go too long without that awareness,
yep.
You kind of end up in survival mode, right?
Yes.
Right. Which is not where we want to be, because in survival mode, you're not regulating if you're in survival mode. Like you
make poor decisions.
You're always, on. We kind of use the phrase or frame of reference. You're always on 10. Like you're not, really thinking about, thoroughly thinking about the decisions or whatever that you're making. You're making decisions all the time, but you're not really thoroughly thinking through, those decisions and making the best decisions at the moment.
Correct.
And you get into that, into that space, man, and that's critical. And what I understand is I've seen it in myself. I've seen it in other men. I've seen it, with the single fathers and everything like that. It's like, look, man, something has got to happen and something has got to be done. And so, that instinct to try to get something done or try to make something happen is going to be there. But like, man, survival mode is not it. So we gotta learn how to escape survival mode, and then build a structure that works for us.
Yep.
And speaking of, building structures, you have designed something that is called the hero, being your child's hero. And I understand that, hero is an acronym
Yeah.
for this program so that you developed. So tell us a little bit more about that structure that you kind of built out that helps us to become our children's hero.
Yeah, man. I mean, I built it because the goal is to help fathers win, right? To win after separation or divorce. It's really just to win with them. And it's not win against their ex. Let me just clarify that. It's win for themselves, win for their children. And that's the number one thing that the reason I built this whole method is for that purpose, because, it's an acronym. Yes, it's a program that I've built because I've lived it. I've actually lived this. I've had to heal my past. And like I told you earlier in my story, I didn't heal my past before. I got into another relationship too quickly before healing myself, and it burned me. I fell right back into the same pattern. I mean, the woman I got together with and had another child with was very similar to the relationship I just left. So it was a pattern. You have to heal your patterns. You have to understand and realize, okay, what patterns do I have in my own? Why do I keep attracting, or why am I in this situation? And that's, I had a father on my hero circle call yesterday. He's like, should I jump into another relationship? My ex was cheating on me. She's been cheating on me. She's had like 8 different affairs. And I'm like, bro, don't do that. It's the worst thing you can do for yourself right now, to jump into something when you're not healed. Right now you're acting out of revenge. And not to say I was acting out of revenge myself. I was acting out of loneliness. I didn't want to feel lonely. But you got to heal yourself as a man, as a person. You got to get clarity and get a direction, just like we talked about. You got to get a direction and a vision of what you want to become now. You have to create a new version of yourself. It's not the same vision, and it's not the same version that you're going to be when you were married. It's just not. And that you don't have that person next to you anymore to help you with things. So you have to take that and own it. And all right, you got to heal the past. All right. And then the next part is just establishing a new structure. Like we talked about, and establishing new foundation. You burned the house down. The house got burned down. You got to rebuild completely from scratch, pretty much. Yes, you have some pieces to use, some resources, but with your kids and things like that, but you got to basically start over, build a new slab and everything, build a whole new foundation for yourself, routines, habits, all these accountability, taking ownership of things. Those are part of the foundation that you have to really sift through and take to heart, really, and just grow from it. Right. And then the R part of it is just rebuilding your identity, man. And that is the hardest part, because we all fall back into that comfort zone. You know what I mean? You always fall back into your old habits and your old routines because they're comfortable. Like, you've been doing them for so long. It's hard to it's just like losing weight. Like somebody will lose another 10 pounds and then they'll put it back on months later after they're done with the trainer, right? If they get a trainer or whatever, it's just that it's a back and forth cycle. They don't get it down and then stick with it. So I related to that. Rebuilding your identity is the same thing emotionally and mentally, and stronger version of you is the hardest part of the whole method that I've created is rebuilding that identity. And then just, you got to own it, man. You got to own it and take the leadership role of it. And just, that is your standard from this point on. That is the man you are. That's the man you're going to become, and the man you're going to keep building into. And so that is how you become the hero to your children's story, man. That's the method. It's an ongoing process, and it's never ending, really, realistically, but the goal is to get yourself back on your feet and get a clear structure, get a clear plan to develop that next version of you as a single father.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So good. So, those of you who are listening out there, he's laying out for you just the basic of the reality, which is something that I believe intrinsically, deep down, we know. We know, that we've got to, build out a framework that's going to, make it necessary for us to be able to, have success. Like you said, the house burned down. Okay, so now let's take an assessment, of what's going on. I mean, we can sit all day and, mull over the reality that the house burned down. Oh my gosh, my house burned down. Like, what am I going to do? Don't get me wrong. There's a a time for that, a period, a space, I guess you could say, for that to be where it's like,
Yeah.
hey, let me kind of lament a little bit for the fact that I experienced this challenge that I experienced. But then, when it's time to rebuild, like you get up and make that assessment, and then you do the cleanup, from that process of what was. And then let's assess this foundation now. Let's see, can we utilize this foundation to, rebuild another structure? Or what do we do? Do we completely break up this foundation? Do we say, hey, you know what, down here at this spot, it's going to be best that we just kind of do the cleanup and all the things, and then just move on and just kind of rebuild, or, all the things, right? But at some point, you've really got to really take that step, and not, because if you're not careful, and I think we've all been there, if you're not careful, what we will end up doing is go into complete shutdown mode, which can be so
victimhood. You
Yeah.
you want to blame everybody else but your own problems, and we are in control of our own. We are in control of our own issues. We are in control.
Yeah.
We created everything. Everything that's happened to you is created by you, and you may not want to accept that as a reality, but it's the darndest truth you can say. And it's the God's honest truth, because every situation in life, it happens for a reason, but it's also because you caused it. It could have been caused several years prior, as something you did prior, but at some point it all came back, because this is what happened. This is what you did. You may have said something wrong. Well, it came back on you. That's the biggest thing that we got to remember.
Yeah, the how important it is making choices.
Yes.
Right. Those choices define, what's going on. I'm reminded of one of my favorite reads in the Bible is the book of Proverbs. And the book of Proverbs, it's a book of wisdom, right? Just a living. He starts the book off by telling you that one of the things that I continuously meditate on, that's out of that book of Proverbs. It says, guard your heart with all diligence, for from it flows the issues of life. So basically saying a lot of what is happening to you is because of what is going on in you. Basically, that's what they're saying. Mm-hmm. So you got to really kind of do what's necessary to do the work of making sure that you're operating from a place of a healed heart, of a clean heart, of a pure heart, because every action, every word, every decision begins in that space. So it says literally, this is the place of the outflow of what is happening in your life. A lot of what is happening in your life is coming from what is going on within you. There's another passage in Proverbs that says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So literally, your life is literally being driven by the decisions that you are making because of what is housed there, what is even maybe hiding, in the space of your heart. So, we've got to do some work, to do the necessary regulation, in those spaces. And so, man, a responsibility and accountability is a huge thing when it comes to being able to build out that structure that you're talking about, that's going to build you, move you into the place where you're actually able to experience the success that you need.
Yeah, and a lot of men, a lot of men struggle with it, man. They just don't want to. The ego gets in the way. The ego gets in the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh man, can that be a big one? Man, that can be a huge one. That can stop you from asking for help a lot of times.
100%.
That huge. You'll stop. You won't ask for help. Yeah, like why? No, I need help. It's okay. It's some of the things I think that we define as weakness is really maturity.
Agreed.
And I don't think we realize that. You know, it takes a mature person to be able to recognize, hey, I'm in a spot where I need help, you know,
Yep.
because all of us are there from time to time, you know,
Yep.
just need help.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what is something that you believe, or let me ask you this. What is one thing that you believe a divorced single dad needs to hear?
One thing I believe a divorced single dad needs to hear. There's so many things, but I go back to just you're not alone, man. I think that's the number one thing. Is I think I've talked to so many men that just feel like they're shocked that I understand them, or that I'm preaching things of like their story, their version of this story, and I'm putting out things that completely make sense, but because they felt like they were alone. They felt like they were the only ones going through it. And I just want them to understand that they're not alone through this process, that there's people out there, just like you said, that want to help. And there's solutions to every problem, right? And no matter what failure you say you have, those are really just lessons that you have to learn. The universe is just teaching you lessons, and realize that you're destined to do something better for your life and for your children. Right. And that's the version that the mindset you have to go into this for is you can take your hits, take your lumps. You went through a hard season, right? But now the season is to find the man that you actually want to be. And, sitting alone and being alone and isolating yourself, it's the worst thing you can possibly do for yourself, because all it does is you just sit in your thoughts constantly. You're just sitting and drowning yourself for no reason, for no reason. And that's the hard part of the hard truth about just being in a divorce situation, or even separated from a long relationship. You can't force yourself to do that. You have to I shouldn't say this. You have to force yourself to get out of isolation. Yes, you have to be inspired and encouraged to do that initially, but you just got to keep showing up, man. Keep showing up for your kids, keep showing up for yourself, and realize that your story's not over.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. One of the things I also kind of want to explore in our conversation is I do a little workshop, and the workshop, which all of this is literally a part of, I guess, understanding this in a framework. I do a little workshop called Present Not Perfect. And I noticed that the reality is that, one of the things you mentioned, is, which I was like, yeah, that's it. One of the things you mentioned is that is what our children need. Our children don't need, because let's face it, right? If the requirement was perfection in fatherhood, nobody would be able to fit the bill. It's just the reality of the situation, right? So we have to learn how to understand that what my child wants from me is to be present in spite of my imperfections, right? Those are things that we can work through. Those are things that we can work around, all the things. I talk about sometimes in the workshop, I'll talk about how there was this point in my life where I was, my first son was born, because here's the funny thing. I don't think I told you this, but my audience knows the information, so it's not new to them. But my wife and I have 3 children, right? I have a son who's the oldest, and then I have a set of boy-girl twins. So here's the thing: they all have the same birthday.
Yeah, right? I remember you telling me that.
For his first birthday,
so crazy.
He got a brother and a sister, right? So I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here, and he's 1, a little past 1. Twins are like a few months old, right? I'm sitting in the living room on the couch, and I'm really just looking at my children, and I'm just like thinking about myself as a father. going through all of the things of a young father, the feelings of inadequacy, all the things, right? And I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about, man, boy, I really want, that was my thought at the moment. I really want to do a good job. I want to do a great job for these children. Like, I love my children so much. Whatever I have to do, I'm willing to do it.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I was having a conversation with God. I was praying. I had a lot of conversations with God, a lot of prayer, a lot of talking to him, and, man, to just really help me, along this journey. So I'm sitting there, and funny thing happens. I start thinking about my father. Right.
Wow.
And when I start thinking about him, I start thinking about differently at this point, because I'm a father now, right? I'm thinking differently about the things where I found disappointing, when I was younger. And while I'm sitting there, I'm thinking about things I found disappointing. But then this is the thought that occurred to me. My dad did the absolute best that he knew how to do.
Yep.
I should tell him thank you. Like, imperfections and all, right? The thought occurred to me. I just need to tell him thank you, right? So I didn't hesitate. I picked up the phone and I called my dad. I said, "Hey, Dad, I know this is a random call." I said, "But I'm calling you because I'm sitting here looking at my children, and for the first time, maybe I had recognized it, but I'm thinking about it in a whole different way. And I'm calling you now because I just simply want to tell you thank you for doing what you knew how to do. Thank you for giving me the best that you had. Thank you for learning how to do different things, but you did the best you knew how to do. Thank you so much for that."
Love that, man.
And I can't tell you, I can't tell you. I mean, I know it did a lot for him, but I can't tell you what that did for me. For just that moment, for me, really kind of helped me to begin to understand that I really could build a completely new dynamic. I could build a completely new paradigm for what my relationship with my children and myself will look. And this is what it did to me. That moment made me decide. I made a decision in that moment. I said, whatever I have to learn, however I have to learn it, whoever I have to learn it from, however I have to develop myself as a man to be a better father for my children, to be a better husband for my wife, I'm going to do that. Because again, my father only could do what he knew how to do.
Yeah.
So I had to equip myself if I wanted to be better and progress and be better for my children. Then I had to say, okay, I'm not going to allow myself just to say, well, I can't do it because I don't know to do it. I'm going to learn the things. I'm going to put the work in to learn how to do it. And still, right, had to do it in imperfection, because there's no such thing as perfection. But the presence makes all the difference. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah, 100%, man. And I'll go back a couple points that I heard you say. And first off, that's amazing that you did that, brother. That brought my heart warm. I love it, man. I love that your relationship with your father was amazing. That's incredible. But I think that this is a point where, look, heroes have flaws, right? Heroes have kryptonite. Heroes have all those things, and we are looked up as the hero to our children from a young age. Most of us are, right? The ones that show up and are trying to be good fathers. We are those heroes. So you have to remember, heroes have flaws, right? And so we're not perfect. There's imperfections. There's things that blind corners that we don't know, and that we try to react to the best decision we can. But at the end of the day, we still got to show up. We still got to show up for them as best we can. And the other thing is the one thing I also talk about is in myself as a father. I want my kids to be a better version. I want to be the foundation for them to then be a better version than me. I want them to learn from me. And I think that's something that, I'll be honest with you, that reminded me of your father did. That's exactly what he did for you. He built a foundation of love and kindness, and he showed up for you as he could. He did the best he could. But look at you, man. Look what you've done as a father. You reached out to become even a better father. You've raised 3 beautiful kids. You've done the work to try to be a better version than him, because it really started with his foundation, and probably prior to that. But right, that's really started where it stemmed from. So that's, and I know it's hard. Okay, when you're going as a single father, it's hard to think like that. It's hard to really it's hard to process that, because you're overwhelmed. Your nervous system is all over the place. You're just like, oh my gosh, I'm just trying to get through this day. But at the end of the day, when you sit down and really calm yourself and realize, okay, what legacy do you want to leave your children? You want to leave them with somebody that showed up, was present as best you could be. Not perfect, doesn't have to be perfect. There's no such thing as perfect in any sense of life. Life is going to be messy. Life is going to be complicated. Life is hard, but it's also beautiful at the same time. Depends how you look at it, right? And I think us as men and us as fathers have to realize that just by taking 20 minutes a day, 20 minutes a day of intentional time with our kids means the whole world to them. I mean, really think about getting 10, 20 minutes from your wife or your partner a day, and just getting your stuff out there to her, to like, hey, or, whatever it is. And just expressing, that conversation with her, and just getting an understanding of something or him or whatever. And, just feeling that validation. Your kids just want validation. They just want your energy. They just want to feel heard. They want to be seen. As a kid, that's all I wanted, was to be seen. I wanted that validation. And now I'm learning that that's kind of why I'm in this position, because I was seeking that consistently. I was seeking that validation from my father, right? And why he left. I was seeking that validation from my parents. Even though I had a stepfather, I didn't have that close relationship with him, because I was fearful of him. A lot of times, he had a temper. He was reactive a lot. And so he taught me a lot of things in growing. Okay, this is the mold I want to be for my own kids. He was present, he was around, but he wasn't present with me, so I was seeking validation and seeking approval all the time as a kid. And so I've learned that pattern. Okay, that's what I'm doing with my relationships with my partners that I thought I had, That's why I am where I'm at. Right. So you got to reflect, you got to have that understanding that presence with your kids is important. And you don't have to just sit there and spend 8 hours a day with them. That's not what it's about. It's really just about taking and being intentional with your time, and trying to be the best version for you as they can see. That's really what it is.
Yeah. That's uber important. I mean, that presence makes all the difference. I hear it in the conversation with my adult children now, just the things that they appreciate, that they, remember this, they say things that sometimes it's like, man, I was doing it, just because I really was, concerned about, you being better. We would often use the statement, guys, look, I may have had to jump off the floor to get where I am, but I'm going to make sure you jump off my shoulders. Because if you jump off my shoulders, that means you're going to go further. That means you're going to do more. That means you'll get there a little bit quicker than I did. And, that's the goal. But to hear them talk now, it's like, man, I think back and it's like, man, I had no clue how much some of the simple things meant to them. Just some of the most simple things, especially my daughter. We did a podcast episode not long ago, and the podcast was, she's the ultimate daddy's girl, because, oh my gosh, I don't think I could get more of a daddy's girl than this one, I think I was only built for one girl, and she is literally all the girl I would have ever needed in my life to have to raise. But to hear some of the things that, them talk about, in their childhood, that I was able to thankfully do with them and for them. I had no clue how much it meant to them until I heard them express it, on this side of fatherhood. And, it just, I don't know, it's something so rewarding about this particular space, a stage of fatherhood that I'm in, now with my adult children, and even recognizing how much they still need me, but they need me in a different way now. One of the things I talk about in the book is that fatherhood has seasons. And so you have to really be able to, parenthood in general, but fatherhood has seasons, and you have to be able to recognize what season of fatherhood that you're in, and then make the proper necessary adjustments in that particular space. Yeah.
100%.
Listen,
100%,
man, this has been fun. I've enjoyed, really having this time and having this conversation with you. But I want to make sure that everybody can know where to find you, where to find your hero method, where to find you on social media, all the things, websites, all that kind of stuff. Can you just kind of give us some of that, how to be able to connect with you? Maybe they want to book a session with you, single dad may want to book a session with you or something. How can we do?
Yeah, brother. Right now, the site right now is in rebuild phase, ironically enough, but it'll be released here in about another week. TheInspiringFather.com is my website, and then I'm on Instagram, Facebook, at Inspiring Father. Those are my two handles that two platforms I'm mostly on the most. So yeah, feel free if anybody needs some guidance, some help. And then I do my Hero Circle calls on Wednesdays. Those are free to join. Any father that wants to kind of be a part of a community and talk fatherhood, talk different topics, I have different topics I talk about every week. Happy to have them join as well. So yeah, reach out any of those ways, and I'd love to help any men that they're struggling with fatherhood, and really just the single fatherhood life is the biggest thing. And that journey is not an easy one, but it's something that you're not alone in it, and there's some support that can be had for you. So don't think you're the only one out there.
Yeah. So, man, like we were saying earlier, just like anything else that we do, I know I do a lot of my own vehicle repairs just because it's kind of fun, and that sort of thing. And then of course it also saves me quite a bit of money. But
but it doesn't save you time, man. That's the thing. That's what we buy.
It does not save you time.
That's why we have people that out there.
Yeah. It does not save you time.
Here's the one thing I'll ask you, bro, and that's the thing. And that's why coaches are in place. That's why mentors are in place. That's why, because they got the roadmap they've been through that process. We all are here to save time. Think about what it costs. You got to think about what things cost you. When you're in an emotional state of mind, and I know we didn't really talk about that, but when you're in an emotional state of mind, or when you're in completely lost, what's it costing you? It's costing you a lot of different things: presence, costing you insecurity, costing you your confidence, costing so many things. That's just making your life harder as every stage goes on. And that's the question the father's got to ask: what is it costing you?
Yes. And if you're going to be able to make the repairs, you got to get the proper tools.
You got it. Exactly. Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah, you got to do it. You got to do it because like I said, in my vehicle repairs, a lot of times what made it work, and then over time, I just started telling them, hey, this would be a great Father's Day gift, because I'm really kind of thinking here about the tools, whatever that I need, because I'm like, hey, if I have this tool, there you go. If I got these tools, I can get the job done, but it's going to take, utilizing and learning how to properly utilize and even care for those tools. So guys, listen, I know his website is in rebuilding phase, but look for the website.
By the time this gets released, I'm sure.
Yeah, the inspiringfather.com. All right.
Yep.
Go to the inspiringfather.com website and get those tools. Get what you need, man. Prepare yourself, equip yourself, be good, be better, and then do what we always say. Remember that I am a good man doing the best I can, and I am doing everything I can to make my best better. All right? Do your best, but keep working to make your best better. Tyler, thank you so much, man, for joining and being a part. We salute you in your role as a single father and in your encouragement to those other single fathers that are out there. And we are looking forward to wishing you the best in all that you do, and continue to inspire fathers to do great things. Everybody,
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Appreciate you. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us for another episode of Facts and Fatherhood. Guess what? We are going to see you